Welcome to 10 Minutes with 10 Wins, where we look at improving teams via the transfer portal. We start by finding some of the impact players that teams are going to be losing, whether it's to the NFL or to the portal, and we find a way to replace those players. So we want to start off with LSU. LSU had a really good offense, not a very good defense, and that defense is losing some players. All right, so they brought in a new defensive coordinator to turn that defense around, but they lost some players in key positions, specifically the defensive line. All right, so LSU is losing two players that were huge for them on the defensive line, Miko Wingo and Meki Wingo and Jordan Jefferson on that interior defensive line. And those guys are entering the draft, probably going to be in the top 100 or so draft picks. And they don't have a lot of depth left. So we need to look at, some of the potential defensive players, defensive linemen to replace them. All right, now that we have the defensive linemen who have entered the transfer portal, I want to add some of those impact players for LSU to the player table. So Meki Wingo and Jordan Jefferson, either one of those players will do, just to kind of compare what their production was from last season and see if we can find somebody who can match that level of production. A defensive lineman, is really hard to identify how good a defensive lineman is just by their stats. But, a guy who's getting double-digit tackles, has some TFLs, et cetera, he's getting to the ball, he's making some impact play. Is there a way we can get rid of all the DE positions and filter those guys out? All right, so now that we have all of the interior defensive linemen kind of sorted together, I want to look at tackles. How many of these guys are getting at least one tackle a game? All right. Again, an interior defensive lineman, one of his primary jobs is to keep the linebacker clean. Right. So he's not always able to get to the ball. But if he's making a tackle, that means he's getting off a block and he's making that tackle close to the line of scrimmage. So I want to see how many of these guys at least produced a tackle per game. That means he got off the block, stopped the run, maybe got to the quarterback, et cetera. All right. So now I really want to look at the players who are still in the portal, right? A lot of these guys have found a team, and I want to identify the players who still are searching, still looking for a team, so that I can see who I can add to my team if I'm LSU. All right, so now I want to sort by the weight. Look, I'm LSU. I'm not putting a guy who's 250 pounds on my interior defensive line. They're going to get pushed around the SEC. All right, so I got to get guys that are at least in the 280, 290 and above range. Okay, so now, I have this group of guys who are in the portal. A lot of them have the size to play at an LSU and be effective. I kind of want to scroll across, though, and look at their production. This guy at the top, Derek Harmon out of Michigan State, 16 solo tackles. He has a sack, some QB hurries, and he definitely has the size, right? 6'5", 320. He's a second-year guy, right? So there's still some opportunity for him to be in college for a few more years. I want to click on Derek Harmon and send him an offer. Big guy, projects well from a size standpoint, and also has a decent amount of production, equal to the level of production that we're losing. And if I'm LSU, I got a star linebacker at the middle linebacker position who didn't get a lot of production last year because our defense wasn't great. I'm gonna need to keep that guy clean. I need a guy like this who has the size and ability to do that. I'd like to send him an offer and see if he'd be willing to come out to the Bayou State. I'm Blake Baker, new defensive coordinator. I run a 4-2-5 defense, which means I play with five defensive backs, but really that fifth defensive back is kind of a hybrid safety linebacker player. So he has to be a guy who has the willingness and the ability to fit up in the run, but also be able to cover potentially man to man, zone, etc. He has to be a very versatile player. Blake Baker likes to blitz a lot, similar to Manny Diaz and other coaches that he coached underneath. They don't have a star that's that hybrid linebacker safety, so I want to find a safety in the transfer portal who's like over 200 pounds and could potentially play like that hybrid linebacker safety role. I want to look at tackles and like passes defense. So I want to see, is he getting to the ball and making plays or tackling, and can he cover? And is he big? If he could do all three, he could be potential. Yeah, so I'll be looking at tackles per game, probably like is he getting over three a game, and then passes defense if he has like five or so pass breakups. So there's only three guys really that are here that have the passes defense. So they've made some plays in the pass game, and they have the game to game tackles from a production standpoint that I'm looking for. You got a guy out of South Alabama, a cornerback actually out of James Madison, and a guy out of Western Kentucky. Now, only one of those guys, well, two of those guys are 200 pounds, right? And if I want a guy who can fit up in the run, I'm gonna want a 200 plus pound guy. But really, only one of those guys is really like a safety that's played the safety position. The other guy's a corner. This guy, Jaden Voisin out of South Alabama, uh, pretty solid production. And South Alabama's a smaller school, but the reality is I'm Blake Baker. I'm a new defensive coordinator. I need to add depth at a position that I may not have a lot of that depth at, and I don't really know what I have currently. Um, so this guy has some decent production. I'd like to, you know, click on Jaden and send him an offer. Southern guy, South Alabama. Let's see if he has the ability to move into the SEC and make and continue to make those type of plays that he was making at South Alabama. So I want to do linebacker. I want to do the same kind of thing. Probably give him a little bit more leeway on passes defense. All right, so here are all the linebackers that are in the portal. I want to filter down a little bit though. I want to reduce it down to some guys who produced on the field from a tackling standpoint. So who were able to go out there and get maybe, let's say, three tackles a game. I mean, if you're playing linebacker, if you're on the field, you should be getting some tackles, right? You're right in the middle of the action. Chris Paul Jr. That's Chris Paul's son. So now I have all the players who entered the transfer portal who had at least three or so tackles a game. Um, I want to rank these players by their pass breakup. So by the passes defense that they got. So how many of these linebackers are also making plays in the pass game? Okay. Now that I see them by the amount of pass breakups as well, I want to remove all the players that have already found a team. Because obviously, at least this point, I can't actually offer those guys. All right, so we still got a decent list of players on the board. It's a kid from Charlotte. Um, he's got a lot of production. 64 tackles, 8 TFL, some pass breakups. But I want to look at this list versus ranked opponents. Were these players able to get the same level of production versus some of the better teams in college football? All right. So my guy, Nakai Hill-Green out of Charlotte, even against ranked opponents, he moves to the top of the list. I was trying to see if I filtered him out by putting the ranked opponents, but a guy, he's in his third year three, decent size, a ton of production, 22 total tackles versus ranked opponents out of Charlotte. Kind of a diamond in the rough. That's the guy I want to offer. So let's click on him. Kyle Green, 6'2", 230, 64 total tackles. Seemed like a guy who can move up and play against some better talent more consistently. Let's send him an offer and see if he's willing to come out there and play for LSU. All right, so thanks for watching 10 Minutes to 10 Wins. This tool gives you an opportunity to be able to identify players in the portal, potentially send them an offer, and continue to build and improve your team. So that's it.